Hello, YouTube. It's Nick from Neon Dream Games. I am going to talk about pixel art this week for my first game of my 10 game challenge, which is a Flappy Bird sort of knockoff. But let's get into it right after the intro. Okay, as I said, I am creating the first of my 10 game challenge series. I'm hoping to stick with it, but I don't want to just make exact copies or replicas of the games I'm trying to replicate. So in this case, I'm starting with Flappy Bird, and I wanted to do something different because ultimately I want to be able to both practice my pixel art and my coding skills and all that and put it all together. So I did a little brainstorming and decided to make a game with a paper airplane that essentially Flappy Bird has pipes that you kind of dodge between. Well, my game's going to have a paper airplane that kind of flutters above trees and underneath clouds. So if it hits either one of those, you would lose. It's the same concept as Flappy Bird, just different graphics. But I do want to try and add a landing pad, and you'll see that when I talk about the pixel art in a bit. But before we get into that, if you guys could like the video and subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it. It really helps me grow this channel and get it out there to more people. So I am going to react to some of the footage I recorded. I didn't get to any coding yet. I just basically got all the graphics ready so I can start coding, which hopefully I will start doing in the next video. But for now, I will talk over some of this footage that I recorded. Okay, so I wanted to begin by doing sort of a concept art thing so I could just sort of figure out what exactly I was doing. So I went in Photoshop and I started just creating this basic concept art. So these are the trees that you're going to be dodging, different sizes, sort of like the pipes in Flappy Bird, then the clouds. And basically, I don't know. I came up with that concept to dodge this stuff. I'm drawing the landing pad now. The landing pad is the idea that I don't like endless levels. So I don't know. We'll see. Yes, I might do an endless mode as well. I was using generative AI to sort of create a paper airplane. I figured that out, got it. And yeah, that's the idea that you could hop around the clouds. So the idea there was you might even be able to hop around the clouds above them, which is sort of a different concept than Flappy Bird since you're usually going between the pipes. But I'm hoping you'll land on the landing pad. I don't know. We'll see about that. So then I moved into creating the paper airplane. I did a couple of tries at doing generative AI stuff to get me on the path of it, but the paper airplane I just couldn't get right. So I wanted to make the airplane on my own. I wanted to create a couple different animations and angles for sort of when you do the lift and the drop. So this is kind of the whole lift part right here that I'm creating. So every time you tap the button to jump or bounce or whatever Flappy Bird does, in this case, I guess he flaps his wings. In this case, this game I think is tentatively going to be called Flutter Plane, and yeah, you're gonna bounce up, and then it's gonna swiftly drop. So I created this kind of sharp drop angle if you don't continue to bounce back upward again. And yeah, that's the paper airplane that will travel through the level. And you'll see later on in the video I'll talk about it, but I don't tend to like outlines, and I didn't do outlines here, but when you see the final concept piece that I did, which you'll see later in the video, I'll talk about it later, but essentially I went back and added outlines, and I'll show you why later. But here I'm just creating the sprite sheet and getting that ready for being able to bring into coding. Now, I skipped the part where I did the generative AI. It's a little bit in here, but I used Pixel Lab, as I've talked about before, and I created a tree. I didn't want to create a tree from scratch, and Pixel Lab is really great at doing something like that. So as usual with Pixel Lab, though, it needs a little tweaking. So you're basically seeing me do the tweaking here, getting the tree all cleaned up, kind of enhancing some areas, changing the lighting a little bit because it had, in my opinion, a weird sort of lighting angle. So I wanted to give it more of a top lit look. And I also wanted things to be on layers. I wanted the leaves and the trunk on its own layer. And you can see me just kind of tweaking the trunk there, building that out. And I'll make it bigger there to fill everything. And then because I did that, I got to tweak it a little bit more. But that is my tree. But I also wanted to, I don't know if I'm going to use it in the end, but I wanted to animate the tree's leaves. So I think you're going to see that in a moment here where I think right here, I'm trying to use the generative AI to animate the tree leaves, but in the end, the AI was not producing good results. You'll see right here, it kind of just, I don't know, it was like growing the tree trunk and everything. I didn't like it. So I ended up just trying to do this simple like rotate thing to just give this sort of like tree swaying in the wind. I don't know if I'll use it in the end, but I wanted to have it as an option. So we'll see. I might throw that into the game as well. Now this is going hyper fast, but that was sort of the concept there, to have the trees kind of blowing in the wind. Then I decided to make the ground tile that will be repeatable. I was just kind of taking in some of the colors from the tree, sort of color match, and I don't know what I was doing here. I was just creating a sort of a ground dirt thing, and mentally I was just sort of trying to do a wrap from one side to the other so it would match up when I do the tiling. And I don't know, I think it turned out okay. This is again first foray into doing any of this kind of thing. I think I even further tweaked it later that I'm not sure if I recorded, but then I moved on to the clouds. As you can see there, I did generative AI to create the clouds, and then I'm going to go in and tweak it as I do. And I know everybody has opinions on this, but to be honest, I see nothing wrong with this. Why do I need to sit and make a cloud when I can just kind of get one made for me and tweak it? This went pretty smoothly. I just sort of rounded the edges and things like that. So that here you can see I put things together in a scene there. You saw it for a brief moment. I'm working on parallax because I want to add parallax to the background. So I thought, okay, I'll create this forest, this sort of just singular color forest for parallax scrolling in the background. And this took me a little bit to figure out. I'm still not super familiar with Aseprite, but I was trying to do tiling, like so I started with this whole tiling thing, but in the end I realized that the tiling just wasn't going to work. I just needed to kind of copy and paste and move trees, resize trees. So I created 3 different tree sizes, and then I'm just kind of gonna toss them in, throw them into the lineup. And I thought this would be a good background color, this sort of dark green. And I realized later it was way too distracting. And I don't believe I got footage of that because I was tweaking a lot of things on my own later. I mostly recorded this creation process here, but I ended up making it way more atmospheric. Here you'll see I'm creating a gradient. I was trying to figure out gradient sky thing and realized later that I had to look it up, but Aseprite has a gradient, and I discovered the gradient and I made a gradient sky the way I wanted it to. So I started with that. I got the clouds, the same thing. I was going to create parallax clouds. And so, yeah, here you can see I was trying to put the clouds in and see how they looked. I was trying to play with the colors, and I think everything else generally looks pretty good. I thought, okay, should I blur them, use a blur? But that doesn't really look good with the pixel art. Anyways, I thought I picked some okay cloud colors. So I decided, okay, let's just make the scene. I can always tweak it later, but let's just make the parallax background. So I'm just kind of tweaking and resizing, taking the clouds, nothing too crazy here, repeating some stuff so that it can loop. And I did a bit of flipping on the horizontal axis and stuff like that. And then I decided to make them transparent. And in the end, I'm just going to pull up Aseprite here. You can see what I did. I'm going to show you. So when I got everything done, this is what it looked like. I changed that darker color of the trees to be a much more like faded atmospheric color, which, in my mind, I thought, oh, I'll just make this sort of dark gray. It's in the background, or dark green, I mean. And it stood out like a sore thumb on this. I was like, okay, so I actually need to make it more blue to fit more of like atmosphere. And I figured that out by doing the clouds, because the clouds I made transparent. And this is sort of how the clouds looked. And I thought that's not too distracting. The white clouds stand out pretty good. But what I ended up doing then, I was like, well, rather than making the clouds transparent, I'll just make the clouds this color, blue. And I did the same thing here. I made the trees transparent, and then I took that color and pasted it into the sprite for the parallax backgrounds. And when all is said and done, I was like, here's the concept art. And I was like, is this too hard to see and understand? Like it's a little difficult because we're not seeing it in motion right now, but I'm concerned that everything just sort of blends together without the outlines. And is that going to make a good game? So this is one thing I want your guys' opinion on if you've made it this far into the video. Here is the concept art of the final game. Like, this is what my game is probably going to look like in the end. And do you think it looks good without outlines as is right now? Or I went back in and added outlines, and personally, I feel like this really makes it pop more and stand out. I only added it to the trees and the clouds and the plane because those are kind of the three main things that are really part of the game. I mean, the ground is as well. Obviously, if you hit the ground or something, you're going to lose. But generally speaking, you want to know clearly where the trees are, the clouds, and all that. So I guess, what is your guys' opinion on that? Do you think that it's better with or without the outlines? And obviously I can tweak this later. Oh, and also I did the target. I didn't put the target in the scene. I'm still not 100% sure if I'm going to use this target, but if you remember from the original concept art that I made in Photoshop, I had a target. And my idea is that these levels might be procedurally generated. I wasn't completely thinking that I would make them procedurally generated, which I assume, I don't know if that's what Flappy Bird is. I don't know if it's, I guess I need to do a little bit more research on Flappy Bird itself. But my thinking is I might create just a few specific, handcrafted levels where they have a landing pad at the end. So there may be increasing difficulty to navigate. And then in the end, you have to land on the landing pad. Could even be like maybe you get more points or something if you hit near the bullseye. I don't even know if I care about that. We'll see as I start creating. I don't want to spend like a ton of time on these games, but it'd be fun if I could do a couple little tweaks to make it my own. So that's where I'm at with the graphics. Again, going back to the kind of final concept, the target would, be at the end of the level or whatever. I might make an endless mode for it where you just go for a high score, or maybe like time things. See if you last for 60 seconds as it increases in difficulty. I had some of those ideas, and we'll see what I implement in the end, but that's kind of where I'm going with it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in particular about that whole outline stuff. I'm not sure what to do yet, and maybe I'll know more when I start actually making the game and seeing how things actually piece together. But I don't even know how I'm going to approach this, but I'm going to start soon. I'm hoping these aren't going to be very big projects. I don't expect them to be, but you never know in game design. That's kind of the whole point of this. I'm still trying to figure out what is my skill level, what can I accomplish, and what scope can I work under, if you understand what I mean. I'm trying to figure out, I want to make smaller scoped games right now. And a lot of times when I think of an original idea, the scope begins to get out of control, which I'm sure many of you can relate. But I want to understand where my skill level is so that I can start gauging scope better. And I think that's what this 10 game challenge is all about. It's learning to make these little games and seeing how long it takes me. And that way I can make something entertaining, practice my skills, get better. And then in the end, I can gauge my scope better for games that maybe are more original that I want to make, and so on and so forth. This video is getting a little bit long. I just wanted to show you what I've been doing with the art and everything. Hopefully next time I'll have a little bit more update on coding and actually piecing this game together. In the future, I might even take my assets and put them up for sale maybe. I don't know. Again, I'm trying to run a business here, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet for the future, but I might even make a tutorial at some point on how to make each one of these games that I'm making. We'll see. But for now, that's all I got for you for this week. Let me know in the comments below any suggestions, thoughts, anything, even on my programming coming up. If you have any thoughts or ideas on maybe the best approach to making Flappy Bird clone, let me know. Like one thing, like I haven't decided on yet is, am I going to move the plane forward on a horizontal level through, through the stage or the level, or is the plane going to be stationary and the level moves? So like the plane just goes up and down and the level moves past it. I haven't decided. That's two different approaches on how to do a game like this. If you have any thoughts, let me know in the comments below, but make sure you like and subscribe, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button if you want to stay updated, especially on this kind of new series that I'm going to be working on, the 10 game challenge. You'll get updated every time I upload a new video, which basically, if you haven't caught on, is Tuesdays. I usually try to upload on Tuesdays, but I may do additional videos here and there. We'll see. That's all I got for you now. So until next time, keep YouTubing it up.
Thanks for checking out Neon Dream Games channel. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you can stay up to date on all the latest videos we have to offer. Don't forget to leave a comment to suggest what kind of videos you'd like to see more of in the future. See you in the next video.